Welcome to the SharkBytes Podcast. My name is Roland Knall and I'm one of the co-developers of Wireshark. In this podcast, we will discuss all things about Wireshark as well as topics from the world of Packet Analysis and SharkFest, which is our Packet Analysis and Developer Conference. You will meet interesting people and learn why the truth is always in the packets. Well, hello, welcome back to another episode. Tonight we're gonna have one of our hopefully ongoing series about interviewing people who present at SharkFest and also are involved in the project of Wireshark. In this case, with me tonight is Sake Blok, who is or has been a co-developer for quite some time. And we're gonna talk about his history with the project, his personal history and interest with Wireshark and packet capture, as well as some fun games he drew up for the conferences and in general, and how awesome we are as a group. So you should visit us at conferences, obviously.
You really should.
Yeah, definitely. So welcome, Sake, and thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for the invitation, Roland. Good to be here.
So, Sake, tell us a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? How did your interest in network analysis and packet capture start?
That's actually a long story, just like Wireshark. Wireshark turns 25 this year, and back in 1998, I was still working at an ISP here in Holland, and I didn't know anything about packet capture. It only started when I was working for a large bank that I needed to analyze some network traffic. We used Cisco probes and Sniffer Pro to do that, and then the problem was that you couldn't capture and filter at the same time, and the capture filters or the filters were very rigid. And then somebody pointed me to Freshmeat, where there was this little project called Ethereal, or Ethereal, depending on how you pronounce it. And so I started using that. I think it was like 99 or something like that. So just a year after Wireshark or Ethereal started. Yeah, I was blown away, and I could run it on my own laptop, and I could capture, and I could analyze, and I could filter at the same time, and I could really dig into the details of packets, and so that really got me started. And so I was working for this large bank, and we used some load balancers, which is our machines that are in the middle of traffic doing something at the network layer, but also at the application layer, and there were a lot of new features in there, and so there were a lot of bugs as well. So a lot of analysis needed to be done, and that's how I got started. Actually, I think it was like in 2001, I started working for the reseller of those type of devices, and I really started using Wireshark a lot, or Ethereal. I think it was in 2006 that I joined the mailing list because I needed some help, or I wanted to help out, or something like that, and I started to look into the mailing list, and started answering questions, and Guy Harris corrected me twice in my answer that I wasn't complete. So that was for me the trick. Okay, if I answer a question on the mailing list, it needs to be in such a way that Guy Harris can't correct me or can't add stuff to it, but and that really helped me in helping other people, because it really made me not give like 90% of the answer, but 100% of the answer, and the other 10% that I needed to work out for myself. And that's how I learned a lot myself as well.
For those of you listening, Guy Harris is a co-developer who has been with us since, I think, the beginning of the project, and he is immensely knowledgeable.
Meticulous. Yeah, he's meticulous and immensely knowledgeable. Yeah, that's the right word.
He will drill down if you are just a little bit off the center of the question, and the weird thing is he knows really a lot about BSD internals. I think he used to work for a big company with some kind of fruit in the logo. And he also knows a lot about Windows processing, network stuff, Linux networking stuff. It's kind of crazy. And basically, whenever one of us submits something and Guy appears on the patch, we all know, okay, this is not gonna be easy. But he's always pointing us in the right direction. He's a correcting factor and a very important part of the community.
And he's nice about it. He's not like he's not telling you off. He's just adding to it. Like if you put some effort in an answer and then you get correct, it's like, hey, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
And I met him at the first SharkFest, and it's he and Laura. I think that he and Laura met at the second SharkFest, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. We had our first SharkFest in 2008, and that was the first time that I met a lot of the core developers and met Gerald and met Laura Chappell, and the whole community basically was a little bit formed back then. He's also, like Guy Harris, is also the maintainer of the TCP dump projects, and also the if you need a link layer type. Or not a link layer, link layer type.
Yeah, if you need an LLT defined, you have to basically get by him and explain why
you need it. Yes, yes. I always love it when somebody asks a question, he first corrects the question, like I assume, or this is what you wanted to ask, and then he answers his own question. So basically, he taught me to be correct and to be a better teacher, basically. So I thank him for that. It made me a better person in a way. Yeah.
I think Guy Harris is one of the great examples why our community works as well as it does. Because on one hand, I think besides the original first 2 SharkFests, he never shows up to a SharkFest.
No.
He's very secluded in a personal way, but at the same time, he's very integrated and an integral part of communication within the project, and he's always there helping out. He's never angry or bitter or anything like that. He, as you said, he always wants you to try better, you do better, and to improve your own kind of knowledge about the factor. And in that kind of sense, he all makes us better teachers. He all makes us better coders, because we have to really. What you do with open source development a lot of times is you have an idea and you just start hacking away, and he will shout out every mistake you made. Not in the sense of you coded wrong, but in the sense of, have you really thought this through, or is this the right way to do it?
Yeah. We all have our personal relationship with the Guy Harris, I guess. Yeah. Even if he doesn't know it,
So back in 2008, 2009, you joined the mailing list. You got corrected by Guy Harris.
Yeah, I joined the mailing list, and I think I want to ask something, and basically I think maybe it was even that I needed a feature, like I was analyzing traffic over a proxy, and I needed a feature like the X404 field in the HTTP dissector. And I think that was the main reason why I joined the mailing list. Like, okay, I need to ask for that, and then I realized, hey, this is open source. Maybe I shouldn't ask for it. Maybe I should build it. And I downloaded the source code. I wasn't very fluent on Windows and not on development, because I'm a network guy, not a developer. So not by trade anyway. But I created a Linux environment, a development environment. And I started to look at source code and see, okay, how does this HTTP dissector work? How does it make fields? And it turned out that it was quite easy to add another field. So I did that, and I submitted it to the mailing list, because that was the way we submitted patches back then. And since I was developing on Linux, but I was using Wireshark or Ethereal on Windows, I wanted to have an automated build as quickly as possible. So every time I submitted, well, that was my first patch, and I got a question like, do we really need it? You can do it like this? And I said, no, I really need it. Okay, I'll submit it. And I'm not see, who was it? Maybe it was Martin Thiessen. I'm not sure anymore. I need to go back in the mailing list, but it was admitted, and then I waited for the automated build, and I could use it on my Windows system. And it was like, wow, I created something I needed in this program, and that kind of, I'm not sure whether you remember your first patch, but for me as a non-developer, it was like, hey, this is great. I can scratch my own itches with this, and I was working for this company, and one of our customers, they were using multiple spanning tree, but the old Cisco variety, not the IEEE variety. And I think it was either they used Cisco and the IEEE dissector was there, or the other way around. I can't remember, but one of the versions wasn't there. And so I added to the dissector to analyze that, so I could solve my problem at that company. And that really got me started. And every time I needed a feature, like, okay, I'm going to build this. Like, I was doing a lot of analysis on the front and on the back side of a load balancer, which means I needed to match those sessions together. which I did with prepare as filter, and then select the filter, copy it over to the other side, and then this can be easier. Let's create a copy as filter button that you can just create, have some of those steps in one. And that's, I think, maybe my second patch or third or whatever, very early in my development I created that, I guess. Yeah, I helped myself, and in that way I helped others with my code. And I think that's the wonderful thing about open source. You scratch your own back, but then a lot of backs get scratched at the same time. And somebody scratches their own back and your back gets scratched. And in the end, you build something together that's, in my opinion, a wonderful product. Yeah.
The thing I like about that, and the thing I like about the way you described it, is the entry level from a protocol side of view for Wireshark is actually very low. People tend to be shy about it because it's this huge source code. It's this, 3 million lines of code. And while I have to have this immense kind of knowledge to actually achieve something in this program, to change something, but that's not true at all, because you have this vast library of protocols. And if, as you said, if you just want to add a field, or if you want to change a description, or if you want to, some people want to add their own protocols. There are vast examples on how to do that, and it's easy to integrate. It's not that difficult. The main problem, as you faced yourself, is setting up the development environment. It's not so much adding to the code.
Which these days I just do with the Vagrant install. It's just Vagrant up, and it creates a Linux development environment for you without having to do anything, which is perfect. So yeah, it doesn't need to be much. So well.
So did you have issues when you added the button and stuff like that? Did you have issues that you were running into the cross platform stuff a little bit, or did you just go with Linux development, Windows testing?
I always consider myself a very intelligent copy and paster. So if I need something, like when I created the temporary coloring, which was renamed to conversation coloring, which is wrong in my opinion, because it's really temporary coloring, because you can use it for different things. But somebody else thought it was conversation coloring, so it was renamed, and I wasn't aware of that until much later. So yeah. So I looked at the code I looked at features in Wireshark that resembled what I needed to do, and then I cut out those parts that I thought, okay, this is what I need to build up what I intend to build, and yeah. So if it was bad code that I copied, it remained bad code. If it was good code, it remained good code, but it was working. So all the intricacies of different platforms was in the code that I copied. So I didn't myself run into that problem, because I was just copying stuff from others that already dealt with that. Like I said, I'm a network engineer. I'm a network analyst. And I have some programming experience and an affinity with programming, so I'm able to read code. I'm able to understand when I copy something what is needed and what not, and how I need to change it. But if you ask me to write something from scratch, then I'll probably fail. I'll probably succeed, but it takes a long time.
Would you say this is a useful skill to have for a network engineer, to be able to read code?
I'm not sure. But of course, any skill is useful to have, and every piece of knowledge that you acquire broadens your view on things. Like I never coded for network protocols, so I never coded an application that really used the network. Which sometimes, if I analyze stuff, I'm not aware of the intricacies of how a program interacts with the networking stack, because I have no experience in that. And so yes, it would benefit me if I would develop something that's really using the network stack, so I can experience myself what it does and how it interacts and what the effect is of certain features and flags and stuff. But of course, I think that would help. But in a general way, I think it helps if you have an understanding of coding, that you have an understanding of how a protocol works and in why a protocol makes certain decisions, and then it helps if you have some coding experience. But I don't think a network engineer, well, in the old days, like in these days, with network as code, where everything is not configured by hand anymore, but things are automated and scripted and put in a repository to be deployed automatically. Yeah, then it helps. Of course, it helps if you have some programming experience and some experience with version system and systems. Yeah, source code versioning systems.
It's currently a lot of debate around the fact that, as you mentioned, network as a code is a huge topic. A lot of companies like Juniper, Cisco, and people in other companies start developing courses and products that evolve around scripting or developing stuff for the network and using network really versioned with a lot of versioning systems and stuff like that. So there's a question going on, and it's being asked on Twitter quite some time, if you need to be a software engineer to become a network engineer or vice versa, or if it's a useful skill to have. And I think your answer perfectly ties into that, because I agree. It's a useful skill to have, but there is no real requirement vice versa. It's good to have a basic understanding of the other side, depending on which side of the topic you are at. But at the same time, each side has such a huge knowledge base to have to begin with that I personally think if you feel more comfortable doing network stuff, then you should focus on the network stuff. If you do feel more comfortable on the software stuff, then you should focus on the software stuff, and just find people to connect on the other side and talk it over. And
I think you should never close your eyes or push away other things. Like if something comes on your path, just embrace it, and you don't need to go full all the way in it. But if things come your path, and it's always good to know the language of the people surrounding you, doing other stuff, so you can interface with them. If you've got no idea what they talk about, then they don't know what you're talking about, you're never going to solve an issue together. So you need basic understanding of each other's language, of each other's terms, of each other's problems, and then you can work on them. Yeah.
And it also helps gaining appreciation, because otherwise, especially software developers tend to suffer from this ivory tower phenomenon, where a lot of software developers think because they can code, they're, I don't know, the world's answer to any problem. I think it helps to broaden, as you say, to broaden your view, to embrace new stuff, embrace other techniques, because there is always something to learn wherever you look.
Yeah. But I still learn every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even after 20 years, 25 years of network analysis, still learn every day.
Yeah. I find it kind of fascinating. I learned today something about shell scripting. I've doing shell scripting since 97. That's when I wrote my first bash script. I learned something today that's been around since then. And I thought, well, that's new to me. It's stupid that it works like that, but it's definitely something new.
Now you got me interested.
It was really benign. It was how to clear syslog messages. So when you do a test run, you have a empty thing. And I was like under the impression you just call the syslog daemon and tell him clear the log or something like that. Yeah. No. You just echo a blank to the log message file.
Yeah.
I was like, my developer heart was bleeding, screaming deadlock, stall, whatever. But it's the officially recommended way of Debian. So
okay, nice. Yeah. It's fun. You always learn stuff. Yeah. So when I started backtracking to my development early days, I started to develop some features that I really wanted myself, and they were all, after whining for me, they were accepted. And I think at some point the whining of me, because I needed it for Windows, got the better of Gerald, and he just said, okay, here's write access and don't whine anymore. And that's how I became a core developer. That's at least how I experienced it. It might be different. Of course, I wasn't in the core group, so I didn't know how it was discussed that I should be a core developer. But that's basically how I felt. Like, okay, I'm whining too much. Now I'm core. Okay, and with great core comes great responsibility. Yeah. That was in 2007, and just after the move to Wireshark and the move from Gerald to Case Technologies and Janice coming into the game, talking about, hey, we should get the developers together for meeting each other, and that's how SharkFest got started. It was fun I was like added to the core list at the proper time. I mean, it was a start of the building of the community. Like, the project has been there for 10 years. with people all around the world just working on it and not knowing each other. And right at that time, the community started to grow. And I think that's Genesis' legacy.
Yeah, definitely. So for those
Gerald, of course, as well. Because I think what Gerald really understood while he was working on this is that it isn't about him developing this project. It is about him creating this environment and community where people can develop for these projects.
Yeah,
and I think that's
And Janice being the driving force behind creating the community. Gerald being the setting up and basically providing the environment. Janice driving.
Two angles to the same problem. To the same thing. Like there needs to be a community, like for development, and a community for personal things, and that goes beyond the development. And both of them managed it really well.
So what was your experience at the first SharkFest?
It was fun. It was scary. I mean, there was a call on the core list, like, okay, we are organizing SharkFest. Who wants to present? And I was doing a lot of command line stuff at the time. And on the mailing list, I asked every T-Shark question that came around. I answered it, and so people started to know me about. That's a CLI guy. Somebody suggested, you should do a talk on using T-Shark. So I created a talk on how to use T-Shark. I've been repeatedly doing that for quite a while, and I think it's. I always get, when I give that talk, it's really appreciated because people don't know. Like what I show is how you start with T-Shark, how you can do stuff, and then I extend on it, like you pipe your outputs to other bash commands, and in doing so, you can extract, or you can turn data from T-Shark into information. If you haven't never seen that before, if you've never done that before, and I think network people are not very fluent in a lot of them are not very fluent in processing information on the Linux or Unix command line. So when you see that happening and you see what can be done, that's an eye-opener for a lot of people. And I got really, really a lot of people after my talks like, hey, this is a really great session and I learned something, I'm really going to use it. And of course, that's very motivating for me as well to continue presenting at SharkFest. I mean, I've been to every SharkFest except two. One because I had back problems, and the second one because I bought a house and it was delivered like just around SharkFest, so I needed to be here to build a house basically, or to do stuff in the house. But I still feel very sorry that I missed two.
I think you one of the highest. You have one of the highest participation rates since SharkFest started.
Probably. I will never beat Anders
and Megumi
unless he stopped. And Megumi. No, if they stop coming, then I probably can surpass them. But otherwise, I'm somewhere in the top 10. Well, where?
But you mentioning T-Shark is actually something that's, I think, interesting to a lot of you listeners, because when you install Wireshark, you're immediately drawn to this flashy UI program, which obviously does the job for a lot of tasks. But at the same time, you install a whole suite of tools that you can use. And T-Shark being one of the great ones, because you can use it for automated testing, you can use it for automated data logging and stuff like that. It's actually being used in a lot of appliances for exactly that. And very few people really know it properly or the way you do it.
I think my work is like 50% Wireshark, 50% T-Shark. Well, no, maybe 70% Wireshark, 30% T-Shark. I do a lot of pre-processing with T-Shark. I do a lot of, if I need some statistics or anything, I use T-Shark. And of course, if I need to investigate manually and interactively, I use Wireshark, of course. But once I know what I'm looking for and I want to verify, like, okay, is this always happening, or is this, then I use T-Shark to automate that and to get, to check things.
One of the great things you do, you mentioned that you started very early with presenting at Wireshark, basically at your SharkFest, basically at your first one. One of the things you set up, and actually I think one of the most surprising community events we have at SharkFest was done if I remember correctly, at the first Portugal SharkFest we had back in 2017.
No, it was the Pittsburgh was the first.
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh were the first. You set up a little game for us, which was
that was like I think it was 2017. Yeah, I missed 2013, 2014. I think that's the time that you joined the core team also, I guess, because
my first SharkFest was 2016 Arnhem, but yeah, I joined at the beginning of 2016, the core developer.
Okay, yeah, because but yeah. For SharkFest 2017, you want to do something different with each presentation. I repeated a lot of presentations because they're really valuable, but I also want to do new stuff. And I think I just did my first escape room where I did like a couple of escape rooms just before that, and I was like, why don't I create a challenge in a PCAP file? Why not do something like that? And then the whole idea got carried away, like not doing only a challenge, but making a whole timed game of it. So I created a website with where you can get hints based on time, and where you there's this clock running through to 0 that you needed to solve the puzzles, and it's all kind of an escape room like experience. And what I did is I tried to put in funky stuff. I think the first one had like a chessboard. And on the chessboard were some letters, and in the ping traffic there was the locations of on the chessboard that you needed, and so you needed to combine the image somewhere in the PCAP file with the data in the ping packets, and then got a password for probably a PDF that was in there, and I tried to hide things like that. I tried to combine puzzles, and I think I created like 3 now or 4, and what I tried to do is, the first one was really like some puzzles and network traffic. I think the second one was too much network traffic focused. It's nice if it's a story that kind of makes sense, but it's really hard to create a puzzle in network traffic, because there's not many places. Well, there's a lot of places that you can just put stuff, but to create locks, like in an escape room, there's all kinds of locks that you need to unlock, and to be able to do that in a PCAP file, the possibilities are quite limited. There's always some decryption, which Jasper hates me for, because he kind of always messes that up. and actually the fun part was, in the first SPCAP challenge that I did, there was one team, the core developer team. You were in it. And you were struggling with the decryption part, and that's because you were running the latest and bleeding edge code, and there was a bug introduced in the latest code which you all had, but none of the other people had that, because they were running like a normal version, right?
Yeah. No, it was especially funny because the guy who created that bug was actually the one who tried to get it working, or the decryption working, and he was very flummoxed why it wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, that's your quality assurance testing that we do.
Yeah, but the first one was especially interesting because we all heard about the game, we all wanted to play, but there was this rule set up for that the core developers are not allowed to join because we know the program as that well, so it would be an unfair advantage. As it turned out, that wasn't the case. So we core developers, we created our own team and played against the others as kind of an out of the competition.
We made a deal that you were not allowed to win it.
Yeah, and we
you could play.
Very skillfully helped you achieve that.
Yeah. You threw in your own glasses to make that possible. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, and this is something most people don't realize. Although we know the source code and we know a lot of stuff, none of us knows all of it. None of us knows the majority of the functionality.
No.
And so, especially in those challenges, it's very interesting to us because we often see stuff we usually don't use. And I remember, I don't know if it was Pittsburgh or the first one in Portugal, where there was a puzzle where you had to filter for a specific type of package. And then in the info column, there was a kind of a pattern that was, if you read it sideways, it was the password or something like that. It was very intriguing. It was thinking over 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, and you have to figure it out. There's a lot of, one of the other ones was we had a PCAP file we had to read through, but you can also in Wireshark open the PCAP file as a file format, not as a trace file. And there was one where there was a hidden comment in this file format section, which you would otherwise not see. And so there's a lot of do 3, 4, 5 different steps, not necessarily real life examples, but at the same time, you learn a lot about how the program works, what you can do with it, which features are available.
Yeah, I mean, creating. Of course, I can create some parts of the channels I create with normal traffic. So you set up some VMs to send mail or to do a download or stuff like that. So that's normal traffic, but crafted for or used in a way that you can use it for the challenge. But a lot of challenges need traffic that can't be on a real network. So you need to craft that, and I use KP to do that. And I remember for the first one, I wanted to do something with. There's not many places where Wireshark is graphical, and one of the places that it is the TCP stream graph.
Yes,
and I wanted to do something with a TCP stream graph, and in the end, I created a script that could produce text in the TCP stream graph by crafting packets. And I didn't want to make it obvious, so it was like, okay, this needs to be like a line that goes on the screen, and there's in the middle, there's something going on, and if you zoom in on that part, then you can see what it is actually. That was so much fun to create.
No, but
it's really hard.
I totally get it, and you sit quite a lot of time creating that thing. It's not something you do over the course of a week or something. You sit quite some time to get it done, right?
Yeah. I think that it's a process of knowing that you want to build this, creating the storyline, trying to think of ways to hide things or create challenges that combine information from one end to the other end. And it takes time to ripen. And then when you got the idea right, then you need to, by all means, how do I create these packets that will actually do this? I mean, it's one thing to think of what could be done, but then to create the packets that make that happen is like, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, a lot of thinking, and
and the bad thing is you can't participate in the games, right?
No, and like for SharkFest 2022, like last year, like when we did the virtual Shark, like because of COVID, we turned virtual like every conference, and like normally at SharkFest I ran the SPCAP challenge, and there was a packet challenge like a A4 piece of paper with some questions about some trace files, which always is very nice because it taught people to look at packets a different way. And since we had a virtual conference, we couldn't hand out like papers with packet challenges. We couldn't do like the SPCAP challenge, like I said, and I started doing CTFs, like security CTFs. So I thought, hey, why not do a CTF for SharkFest? And so I started creating a CTF based on the CTFD platform, which is also a lot of work, especially when you run it and you haven't tested it properly before going live. Then it really keeps you busy during the whole SharkFest. And then we went from virtual to physical again, or hybrid. I hope we never do hybrid again, but that's a different story. So I ran the CTF, and I also like, we need an SPCAP challenge. That's just too much work. So I know Tom Peterson from CloudShark, he created some challenges for Halloween and one for Christmas, and those were a lot of fun as well. So I reached out to him like, okay, you want to do an SPCAP challenge, and you're the only guy I know that is capable of creating something like this, and are you interested in making one? And he said, yeah, that was so much fun to do, and I'm pretty busy. I need to ask my employer if I can get some time off to spend some time on this, and he made that happen, and we asked them to sponsor because they were involved in this way already, and they sponsored SharkFest at the same time, which was really great. So he made a really, really good one. What I learned from him is my challenges were technically good and challenging, but he made it so that people that aren't technical can participate. So it's even including the people that are not as packet savvy as other people are. And he went a step further in creating a storyline, and that really got me inspired. Like, hey, if I'm gonna create one again, and I think I need to create one for the next SharkFest, I'm trying to focus on creating challenges that are more in a storyline, with some parts being just the Packet stuff, but also some parts being non-Packet stuff, so other people can participate as well.
The only thing was that he chose a specific topic that was very easy for Americans. It was not so easy for non-Americans because it was the Wizard of Oz themed. And the issue with that is if you're not American, you didn't grow up with that movie. And
no.
So
we started to discuss it because you said you can't participate, and so when I asked him to do this, I was like, oh, then I can finally participate because I don't need to. I can just run it, and then since it is my platform, I have all access to all the solutions and answers. It was like, and I need to test it, so I can't participate anyway. So I tested it on my own. So I did have the fun of solving his challenges because I needed to test it, but it was not in a competition way. Yeah. But it still was nice to run it. And to me, even though I'm not grown up with the whole Wizard of Oz thing, it wasn't too big a problem for me.
When you listen to a lot of American TV shows or movies, you start to pick up stuff. A lot of those topics are in American culture, and if you just immerse yourself with that, you pick a lot of stuff up. That's true, but at the same time, there were some, especially in the crossword puzzle, there were some specific questions that it wouldn't come from the top of my mind.
No. And I think if I timed my efforts to solve it, I would not have been able to solve it within the time that was granted. Of course, I was on my own, and if you do it with a group of people, then you have more knowledge than just being on your own. But it's true, and it's something that you need to take into account.
What I like about when we have the SPCAP challenge teaches you a lot of stuff about what you can do with Wireshark, how you can use the program, what tools are available within the program. The Capture the Flag, on the other hand, teaches you a lot about the stuff that Wireshark displays, that Wireshark portrays. You learn a lot about how do you figure out that this host is delaying messages, or how do you figure out that the DNS is whatever. It's a lot of protocol related stuff. And so I really like that we have both games at SharkFest, because on the one hand, you have this fun evening activity where you learn the program, but throughout the whole week, you have also this Capture the Flag stuff where you just can challenge yourself. How good do you know network protocols, and how good are you with coming from, it's the old question you have in your math class when you have a text that describes the mathematical problem, and a lot of people have issues getting from this to the mathematical term they need to solve. And it's similar with Capture the Flag, because you need to get from the technical stuff to the actual thing that you need to solve, which for me, it's a great learning curve, and it's a great learning experience when I do the CTF.
It's basically the reason why I did the CTF is not to create a challenge that people can solve, but to create a challenge that people need to stretch themselves and learn something to be able to solve it. Yeah, I see it as a learning experience and not as of course it's a challenge and it's a game, but to me, it's more like, okay, I want to trigger people with things that they don't know to investigate and to learn something. Unfortunately, there won't be a CTF in the next SharkFest, so because there's nobody else picking up the tab to create one, and I can't do an SPCAP challenge and a CTF at the same time. So
if we have to choose, we always choose the SPCAP challenge, because that's just way too much fun to have.
And the other thing is, like for the virtual conference, the CTF was perfect because people were at their homes, not meeting people, and then they could work on the CTF challenge during SharkFest. Actually, at SharkFest, we tried to create an atmosphere that people are tempted to meet each other, talk to each other, and spend time together instead of spending time in their laptop solving the CTF. So I think kind of the CTF is not the right format for doing a live SharkFest. Yeah, it creates an atmosphere of people wanting to solve the puzzles in the CTF and spending time in their laptops instead of spending time meeting other people and talking to other people and getting experience from each other. And we decided on dropping the CTF for the next SharkFest and doing just the SPCAP challenge.
When you just mentioned that earlier about the CTF being a learning experience, one more thing that comes to mind for me is nowadays you don't do that many changes anymore to the source code. But what you are known as is being one of our big teachers, so to speak, for Wireshark. So do you like that switch? Is this a role that you enjoy, or?
No, it's something that happens organically, I guess. I mean, back in I looked at all my commits, and the first ones are in 2006. They're not listed on my name because they were submitted by other people. But somewhere in 2011 it stopped, and back then I started my own company. So a lot of time went into my company. Also, ask.wireshark.org started back then, and I started answering there. I think for a while I was number one in the list of in the ranking, until somebody else came along and who really had some spare time and blew me away from my first place. But yeah, I started doing that more, and also the move from GTK to Qt. GTK is C-based and Qt is written in C++, and I don't know C++, so I couldn't do any GUI development anymore, at least not without having a steep learning curve. It was also the time that we moved from Subversion to Git, and the whole Garrett reviewing system was introduced. And as I'm not a software developer, all those things are like new to me and are an extra burden. And all these things together made that I wanted to develop some stuff, but I wasn't able to. Too much of a learning curve to do that again. And I tried like a couple of times. I see some commits over the years, like, okay, I tried again, and then I pulled back again. Right, recently I started doing some development again. One change was good, but the other change broke the programming interface that we have for plugins. Like we try to promise the people that build plugins that within a official release like 4.0 or 3.6 or whatever, within that stream your plugin would always work because the interface would stay the same. And I created a bug fix that introduced some new fields in some very low layer structs that we have on the packets, and changing that basically breaks the programming interface. And it wasn't picked up, but because we have a reviewing system that somebody else is always checking the code of a core developer before it gets in. And I guess I expected that somebody would notice that, somebody more experienced, and I guess the person who accepted it assumed that I did that check myself, and so it slipped through. There was a complaint on Ask, like, hey, is it true that the programming interface is broken? Yeah, we had to say yes, it is. And I was the one to blame. So I pulled back the changes for 3.6 and 4.0, and which is a shame. But yeah,
I don't see it as you the one to blame. I think it's a learning curve we all went through, and we all broke the ABI from one time or another.
Yeah,
I did.
And
it
it's not a big deal. I mean, you can run 4.03 and you can run 4.05. So 4.04 will be the one. I think we should delete it from the website and have. Yeah, because then we can say Wireshark 4.04 not found.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I actually made that joke earlier. Like, we should not have released 4.04. So I made that joke earlier in one of the foundation meetings, and then it turned out I broke the. So people might think I did it on purpose, but that's not the case. It just happened.
One of the challenging things with Wireshark is that we always have to consider not only that was my question earlier. Not only that we consider the platform we are running at, but we are running a lot of platforms, actually. Obviously, most people see the big three, Linux, Windows, and Mac, which by itself is not really true, because Mac, for instance, we have x86 and the Apple Silicon platform, and for Linux, we run back to, I think the oldest one we support is some Red Hat 15 something, which is about 5 years old, but we still support it because it's still being used by companies and it's still not end of life. So this is one of the challenging things, and a lot of open source tools, in my experience, don't care about that, but we do. We tend to make our lives harder to ensure that people can use the program at their place of work. And
I mean, if you look at how many people are using it in so many different situations, I don't think we're always aware of that. I mean, we develop to scratch our own backs, and that's perfect. And we develop features that we like or need. And I mean, I'm really in awe if I see somebody explain a feature to other people and it's a feature that I built. It's like, this is crazy. People are finding it useful, are teaching it to other people, and it's a great feeling to know that it's something that that came from your mind and your keyboard fingers, and But it's such a wide audience that we develop for.
But what I find challenging is that I'm coming more from the UI these days. When I do development, I hadn't had that much time over the past 4 or 5 months. But when you do development, I come more from the UI side of things. Wireshark can really knock you on your feet when you first open it, because you get all this information screamed at you, and you don't necessarily, when you start out with packet analysis, know what to do at all. And it's kind of overwhelming when you see all the packets running through and you have no clue what to do next or what to look for, stuff like that. And so we have also this vast difference in user experience. We have users who open Wireshark 1, 2, 3 times a year. And we have users who basically it's the first program they open every time they start up their computer. So it's kind of fascinating.
Hey, why close it?
Yeah, why? Well, there were some versions way back that closed automatically.
Yeah.
That was actually when I about 10 years ago, when I was starting out with developing software for Wireshark, I was kind of pissed because it was running with this machine safety protocol, and I wanted to see not the bytes in the packets, but I wanted to see actually the field names. And so we were using a different packet analysis tool back then at my company. And when I recommended using Wireshark because it's open source and we can just add that stuff, they always said, "Well, no, Wireshark crashes all the time. It's not worth using." So that basically was the get-go answer. It wasn't, it's working or not, but they really didn't care. It's back then Wireshark had a bad rep, and it's when all those fast testing started, when all those automatic builds started, and it was pre-that. It was version 1.8 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, if you look at I've been with the project for like most of its lifetime, and if you look at the cycles that we had in the development environments, well, like there is a huge progress in how we deal with this with the code base. It is a real CI/CD development environment where things are automatically tested. I think that's also the reason why, for me, my development in the early days was easier, because it was like more of a wild west where I could just develop some code, I put it in, it was accepted, and if it broke something, I would fix it, and
we became a company with a 30 people staff developer team, basically, without having anyone driving the ship. We all drive ourselves, but at the same time, we all have the same goals, which is kind of fascinating, because it's kind of self-correcting, but at the same time, really intense development. I want to ask you something else for the last question, because there is something going on in the Netherlands which I'm kind of envy about, and you are a little bit vocal. You have a Wireshark user group and regular meetings.
Yes.
How is that going?
Well, regular is maybe, we try to make it regular, but yeah, I think it was at SharkFest 2019 EU. So in Portugal, I spoke with André Leijer from the Rabobank. I think we flew back on the same plane, so we chatted at the airport, like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to get more people in the Netherlands together who have a focus on network analysis. So I created a meetup account. He works at a large bank in Holland, and they have a tendency to do meetups, technical meetups, to show the outside world, hey, we're trying to be an innovative company. And we talked to the community manager at this company, and he said, well, we have a room, we can sponsor a meetup. So that's when the first meetup in the Netherlands took place 3 years ago. And something happened afterwards. I can't remember what, but something happened which made it meeting each other really difficult. So it was in the fridge for like 3 years, and probably as last SharkFest we talked to each other again, like, hey, we should get this going again. So we had our second meeting, which, like when we started, we were planning to do 2 meetings a year. And there was 3 years apart between the first and the second meeting, but it was really great. The first meeting was like 70 people. It was really crazy. We had to say no to people, and the second meeting was 40 people. It's still very great. I mean, to get 40 people to spend an evening after work to talk Wireshark and Packets, to listen to 2 presentations. Or maybe they came for the food, but most of them I think came for the presentations. It was really great. We try to do it twice a year. So if you're in the Netherlands and you want to join, look up the Wireshark Users NL Meetup group on Meetup and subscribe to it, and we'll get you notified when there's the next meeting. Yeah.
No, I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm kind of sad that we don't have something similar in Austria, or maybe in Bavaria, which would be close for me as well.
It's not there until you make it. I mean, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And Andre and I created it, and I think it works. So I think it would be nice to have Wireshark meetups all around the world. It's not like SharkFest, but it's a bit similar. I mean, you get 2 presentations, you learn something, you meet people that are in your field of work, which is not very common. It's a great way to spend an evening, and I'm very glad to be able to organize that. And speaking of that, we are still looking for sponsors, of course, because we can't do it all the time at the large bank. But so if people want to present, I don't need to present every time. I did for the last 2 ones, but I don't need to do it every time. I love to hear how other people are using Wireshark. And of course, we need some room to be able to host that many people. So yeah, if your company feels like, hey, this is nice, we want to host a Wireshark Users NL Meetup, then by all means, get in contact with me.
Well, and with that, we always say we're gonna do about a 20-minute episode, and we just start talking, and it's
and that's what the community is all about. Yeah. Like SharkFest, meeting people and talking and having fun. Yeah, being weird in the same way.
I mean, we are a bunch of people who want to look at bits and bytes and enjoy it. And yeah, that's some kind of level of weirdness, definitely.
Yes.
So, Sake, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
I had a blast, so thank you.
Well, we're gonna see each other at the next SharkFest in the US. There is one in Asia. If somebody has some time left over in April, then we're gonna be in Singapore.
I'll be there. I'll be delivering a TLS, analyzing TLS traffic with Wireshark. So it's a TLS course and also TLS analysis course, and there will be some sessions, of course, like SharkFest always have. But yeah.
That's in the middle of April, and we're gonna have our US SharkFest at the beginning of June, 10th to the 15th, I think, in San Diego this time.
I'll be there.
I will definitely there. Flights are already booked.
Oh, I still need to book my flights. I need to work on that. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much, dear listeners. You will find our next podcast. We hope we don't make that much of a delay until the next version of the podcast. And yeah, have a good night. Bye.
See you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this installment of the SharkBytes Podcast. If you want to stay informed about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to our podcast at YouTube or your podcasting platform of choice. My name is Roland Knall. See you next time.